Hello, and welcome to Recent Activity, your new favorite entertainment review podcast that attempts to cover every film, every show, all at once. I am your co host, Andrew Morgan. With me, as always, he's operating in an aqua deficit. It's Shane Beauregard. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, bud. I'm doing good.
Is that something you're a former trainer guy? Is that something you're like, listen, you want to cut weight, you want to do health, it's cut all that water right out of your system.
Unfortunately, that is something that today's youth will see on a so-called holistic genius TikTok or something. So I laughed so hard
Is
at
that
that.
true? Because I took that as just like, oh, this is just played for laughs.
It's kind of parody on what people see on the internet now about how to try to get healthy.
Oh, yeah. I get fed everything because, I try to, work in some of these diets or like try to find healthy stuff or whatever. So now I get fed every ridiculous thing ever made. So yeah, but I did find that very funny. That is Justin Theroux in The Devil Wears Prada 2. One of the 5 things we're going to talk about today, Shane. We are going to do 5 new releases worth talking about right now from the weekend. Lots that came out, and May is going to be a barrage. I kind of looked at some of those IMDb lists where they're like, this is what they recommend for May. And I was like, damn, I want to watch most of this. It's going to be busy. It's going to be a lot and we're going to be here for it. So be sure to subscribe and stay with us for all of it. But let's get to this, man. 5 new releases here are worth talking about. Number 5 is something I don't believe you've seen. This was my what's on Netflix.com review of the week. This is Swapped from the director of Tangled, Nathan Greno. He is a longtime Disney creator making a movie for Skydance / Netflix. This is a pretty, loaded cast with Juno Temple and Michael B. Jordan and Tracy Morgan and as well as many others, especially Netflix notables in the voice cast for his. Have you seen anything about this one?
I actually have not.
So this is basically a body swap movie set out in, this woodland area. A tiny woodland creature and a majestic bird suddenly swap bodies, forcing them to team up to survive the wildest adventure of their lives. That's the plot line for this one. Some impressive character design and world creation. I was actually, normally with Skydance, I'm not very, impressed by their computer animation department, like Lucky or Spellbound that they had recently. I haven't really been into it. This one, from the get-go, they had some underwater sequences that I was like, wow, that looks very realistic, looks great. The character designs of the leads as well, voiced by Michael B. Jordan, Juno Temple, are impressive. The flying designs, because on the bird side, or like I mentioned, the underwater stuff or some of the creature stuff, awesome. I will say that while the character design and world creation seem new and innovative, the messages sound too, but the story seems pretty basic with the whole body swap context to try to teach you lessons about other people. And it kind of is what we've seen over and over, right? Especially there's been a bunch of animated ones where you can kind of point to. Fern Gully is one that comes to mind, which is, of course, the Fern Gully was the thing that Avatar felt like they were trying to do. And then Hoppers comes out and they're like, hey, isn't this Avatar, even in their own script? So it's kind of been this thing that kind of happens over and over. But again, what separates this one is that I thought the message and the CGI, the animation, was more impressive than I would have thought. So the only thing is too that I feel like compared to DreamWorks and Disney stuff, this one didn't have a lot of laughs or consistent characters that are played for laughs too. So it felt, just a little more basic. It didn't pop as much with the story. But overall, I gave it a 3 out of 5. And I would definitely say it's worth recommending, which is the nice thing about these 5 things that we're going to talk about, Shane. There's nothing to where I'm like, don't watch this, which is pretty great. I think that everything has some pluses and minuses, but especially if you were up for it already, I think we're going to be in good shape in this episode if this is our number 5 and we're only going to get better from here. Number 4 is The Devil Wears Prada 2, something that when we teased last week that I was like, well, I'm going to watch it. And I had and you didn't seem like you were going to watch this. And now we both did, which is impressive, especially because I know how I watched it. And I believe from talking to you, you did the same thing where we're like just solo dudes going to see a chick flick in the middle of the afternoon. Just
All right.
lovely.
Yep.
You know, when every bit of advertising, I'm like, I don't think I'm supposed to be here. I don't think they want me here.
They definitely don't want me there.
Yeah, well, yeah, for sure. Well, we'll find out. We'll see what you thought. Devil's Wear Prada 2. It's been 20 years since the first. Same director and writer from part 1, David Frankel and Aline Brosh McKenna, respectively. This movie, I will fully admit, I did not watch the first one when it came out. I watched it very recently, the day before I saw part 2, in fact. So I did the homework. I was in. And I got to say, the first one, I was very happy with. I thought it was like a 4-star, burgeoning on something even higher, very rewatchable, very well casted, very distinct characters. I could see why it was such a lasting legacy type film that gets a sequel 20 years later. And, people are out in droves. Shane, did you see the box office numbers? I mean, it's impressive. It like went way over expectations. So congratulations to them and Disney for putting that out. They did a ton of marketing, so it clearly worked. What I will say, Shane, I want to know your impressions first. First of all, what did you think of the first one? Were you looking forward to watching this because you already had an image of what this franchise looks like?
I would like to say yes, but no.
Okay.
That wasn't the reason. But no. I did enjoy, like you, I did enjoy the first one because I poo-pooed it back in that time when it came out. But I was like, I gave it a shot, and it was charming. It was funny. The cast was just, they worked well together, and it was a good movie. I would have given it like you, like a 4 at the time too. So I was like, you know what, that's way better than I thought. Don't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah, for sure.
So this came out, and I was skeptical because you know how I am about sequels 20 years after the original. They usually do not work at all.
They usually do not work.
Right. And when I saw the trailer, I'm like, it didn't really do anything for me. Right. The whole
Same.
Miranda losing, like, who are you and who are you? Like, really? You don't remember who these people? Okay. So
yeah, come on.
Yeah, I was like on the fence.
Yeah.
So, but like you said, I was like, well, I haven't been in the theater in a little bit, and let's do this thing. So
right.
And I did. And I will say, I'm kind of glad I did, because for a legacy sequel, it wasn't that bad. And I mean that in a good way. It wasn't a crap show. I thought the way they reintroduced the characters made sense with Anne Hathaway's character and Andy, right?
Andy.
Yeah,
yep.
Andy.
Andrea.
Yeah. Losing her job and the getting roped in. Well, do you want to describe the plot first or before I go into it? So
no, go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
To help Runway in a little Miranda scandal for child labor. So they hired her to kind of like help soften that, which was like, it made sense to kind of reuse those characters that way. And then you get the different, plot points with the Emily Blunt character coming back, who I loved in this movie. It was kind of formulaic, and you kind of knew what was going to happen at the end. You kind of saw the third act coming, which was fun.
I guess. Yeah.
Right. And we'll get into the characters and stuff, but they introduced Lucy Liu in this movie as well. I had a feeling that's where they're going to go, last ditch effort. But seeing them together again, Meryl Streep was fantastic, and Hathaway was great.
She's the best part of this movie.
Absolutely. She carried this movie. My favorite character where I thought this movie lacked, though, was like it wasn't as funny as the original one, and it wasn't quite as charming, and it didn't really have that emotional punch in parts. I thought the most emotional parts you got, and my favorite actor, and this was Stanley Tucci. I thought every like emotional, heartfelt thing about this movie had something centered around Stanley Tucci's character. Like the whole Miranda speech at the end, I was like, he could how the whole thing. So I thought that was well done. I kind of laughed at the Anne Hathaway boyfriend in this movie because they didn't seem like they would even be a pair. They just didn't seem right together at all as a love interest.
It's lazy. It's
It's
absolutely lazy. It's completely forgettable.
it is. It is. So, but as a whole, you had a nice little cameo by Lady Gaga. You had I'm sure you loved the Carl Anthony Towns cameo, which I thought,
Of course,
which I
yeah.
thought was,
Two
which
Celtics
I,
fans watching that in horror.
which I
Yeah.
thought was ridiculous. You know, it didn't make any
Yeah.
sense in the context. But
Yeah,
overall,
because he's the fashion forward guy in
yeah,
the NBA.
right.
Yeah.
I like Kenneth Branagh in this movie as well. I thought
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, he didn't do a lot, but I did like seeing him.
Yeah. It's another shrug character of
Yeah,
like, yeah, you probably need someone in her life to bounce off of in a couple moments, and that's what he did.
right. But I thought it was
So
a good
yeah.
bookend sequel to the franchise. You know, kind of just buttoned everything up nice and neat, and it was a perfectly enjoyable, watchable movie.
Yeah, I mean, you have like the things I like the most, I guess, are like a little bit of like the plot stuff about like ruminations on AI versus like artistry and history and big tech take over journalism. And, the problem here, I think, for me is that I think the first movie had far more in terms of urgency, importance, energy, and that humor and biting sarcasm, especially that kind of almost cattiness that you expect from like fashion industry stuff. And you got that a lot, especially from Tucci in the first one and Miranda, obviously in doses, because her character is so much more well defined in the first one. I think they wanted to like show growth from people, so they kind of altered the chemistry in this one. So you're seeing a different take. Like her in the Hamptons, I felt like, what movie am I watching? Like it just didn't feel like her at all. And it kind of tips his hand about like where she is or what she's going to do, I guess. But yeah, it just didn't feel like the same type of movie. I felt like the movie finally kicked in with the Emily subplot that rears its head later in the film. And I like that's very deep into the movie at that
Very
point.
deep.
I thought it was kind of like flat up until that point because there's a lot of characters that they're introducing and a lot of people that we don't care about as much. I just feel like, while Justin Theroux seems to be trying to do as much as he can, trying to throw in jokes and be weird and have all that, like tech bro stuff going on. I felt like there just wasn't a lot of jokes. There wasn't as snappy. I felt like there was like it just was sharper the first time around. And introducing a new character like Lucy Liu to be something central when they barely go to it. And like you said, it's lazy because it's telegraphed, or it's lazy because we haven't seen this person the whole time. So it's like, okay, well, what else could it be? And why is this the only option? It just felt like a little lazy there. But I mean, these characters are people we like. So
Mhm.
it already has a leg up in terms of, oh, okay, we're going to get some of the hits, some of the fan service, all these things that maybe why you're in the building. So while I hoped for more, like you said, it's an adequate, it's a good kind of sequel that didn't make you roll your eyes. Like I this could have gone horribly wrong, but I think those core three characters are just so good and the actors are so good that this movie couldn't have been an absolute train wreck, I don't think, especially when you bring back the director and writer and people understand. But I do think that there could have been something better here. So it's kind of like right in that middle. To me, this is another 3 out of 5. And, I can't tell people not to see it, especially if you really like the first one. But I also wouldn't be like, wow, it's worth all this hoopla and the big giant box office returns that they're getting.
Right. I just want to piggyback on one thing you said about Emily Blunt's character because I did know where they're going with that character at first because like they reintroduced
Mm.
her. That's fine. She had her moment with Miranda and
Oh, sure.
Andy.
No, I think that is the best plot point.
Right.
Sure.
Right. And that's fine. So when they revealed, I'm like, wow. But like you thought, like you said, I was like, this is pretty late in the game. Okay.
Yeah.
The Justin Theroux line that I was just laughing at, besides the whole
The
hydration,
aqua deficit thing.
was when he's
That
at the
killed me.
dinner table at the end talking about, we haven't explored the sun yet. Like I'm gonna get
Yeah,
a ship and
yeah, yeah.
call it
And
Icarus.
Icarus, yeah, yeah. He's like, "You just don't get it.
Yeah,
You just don't
I
get it.
was just laughing.
Why are we going to the
Yeah,
moon all the time?"
yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was actually
Yeah,
really funny. But like you,
yeah.
I don't.
No, it was good.
It just doesn't have the rewatchability as the first one. Like I would go back and watch the first one several times. This one's like, once in a blue moon,
Absolutely.
want to throw it in. So I'm like you. I gave it.
Yeah, if it's on cable and you're like,
Yeah,
"Whatever."
I ended up giving it. Not a weak three, but a solid to strong three.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, it's worthy, but not like, you're not gonna get Top Gun Maverick scores out of me.
Right? No.
You know? And as we said, like, it's so hard to do, and that's why we should be scared about, the next Top Gun that's probably gonna come through too, or any of these other ones that are just piling on to the legacy sequel success. Last thing before we move on to the next film, do you anticipate a Devil Wears Prada 3 just because it made so much money? I think this was such a stretch. I don't they would have to have a bulletproof script, I would think, but who knows?
Right. Even with the money this movie's making, because of the way they ended it and everything's buttoned up, now I'm sure they could get some writers in the room like, oh, we can do no, I think it has
Sure.
a finite ending to this. So I don't see a
Yeah.
third coming at all.
Well, especially because it's so weird, right? Because I know Streep has said things like, if they asked me to do Mamma Mia 3, I'd be doing it in a heartbeat tomorrow. I'm like, okay. I mean, like, go ahead, cool, whatever. And she might feel the same way about this. But between her and Tucci, like, you know, it's getting a little late in the game here.
Yeah.
So, who knows how they can turn this around and what ideas they could come up with and then execute on before this all comes through. So we'll see about that in the future. Right now, our number three is Hokum, a movie written and directed by Irish filmmaker Damien McCarthy, who did Oddity a couple of years ago. Did you see Oddity?
I did not. I missed that one.
Okay, that was like a Shudder, had like a limited theatrical, and then went on there a couple of years ago. This is an interesting one. This is Adam Scott, who's doing a bunch of movies this year, and this is kind of the first of all of those. He's an interesting guy in this kind of character. He plays almost like a cantankerous, famous author with messed up childhood that kind of set him off into making these kind of like bleak dystopian books that he writes. Again, very famous, very successful. He travels to Ireland to essentially put his family, his parents' ashes at this place. He stays at this inn in this kind of rural, out in the lush greens of Ireland, out in the woods there, and lays out the ashes, and he's there for all of these purposes. And you could tell he's haunted by at least his mother's ghost to start, and taking that with him. And I feel like he's trying to get some kind of closure or kind of release some kind of demons in his life and in his head and everything else. But then something happens at this inn that he's staying at. There's, a section off area that people don't go in, and there's, rumors and stories and Irish folklore stuff all mixed in here. So it's kind of like, you know, uh, I don't know what it's a mix of in a way. Like it's definitely it's a witch story. It's kind of, a ghost story. It's a little bit of, a family drama. It's got a lot here, but it is pretty straightforward. The horror is mostly on jump scares and like things kind of emerging from the shadows when you get caught in a situation. So it is a pretty good thriller in terms of those things. If for people who watch the trailer, I will say that maybe it's a misdirect a little bit in the trailer to throw you off as to who the big bads or what is actually going on. So I would say if you want to, if I don't want to dissuade people in terms of like, oh, this isn't what you expect, but it's still a very solid film. And I actually like this better than Oddity. I know a lot of people liked Oddity. I think that has like a low threes kind of a score on Letterboxd. This one has a slight tick up. I want to say it's like a 3-4 right now. I'd probably call this a strong 3, as opposed to Oddity, which I think was like, I think I either gave a week or 3 or like a 2.5 kind of thing, because I thought it got lost a little bit. Like the plot was not as strong with Oddity. This one I think is a little bit better. I think he's, getting better, at least the thrills. Like his designs, his scares, those have always been top notch. That was not the fault on Oddity. I thought that movie was creepy, but I just thought the plot wasn't strong enough, and the character in the leads weren't strong enough. This one gets a little bit better in that department, so that's why I think I give this a little stronger grade. Adam Scott is interesting in this because he's played to be almost unlikable. So it's interesting having that as your protagonist here. So I would say this is definitely a watch. Like I said, it's a 3 out of 5. So we'll see how this responds. I don't think it got a huge amount of dough here, but I think it didn't. Yeah, it's been a busy time at the box office, so I think it did okay. But we'll see how much it'll actually garner as to see if it has any legs, because it is getting pretty solid reviews, a little bit better than Oddity, but not by much. So we will see on that. I know you weren't able to see it, right? Immediately had like very limited showtime.
Yeah, just like with the Jason Segel movie that you saw last week. It was the same
Right.
thing. It was like a
Yeah.
9:35 showing on one screen. I'm like, come on, you're killing me with it with these
Yeah.
screen times. So yeah, I'm
These
disappointed.
smaller movies are getting drowned out by Michael and Devil Wears Prada, and still hanging around Project Hail Mary and Mario
Mario,
and some of
yeah.
these other ones. Yeah. It seems like everything's going to the blockbusters, which, I get it's that time of year, but that also makes me sad because when I was in Hokum and I'm watching the trailers, I'm like, oh, that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. But they're all these very small horror films that are going to come out throughout the summer. And I'm like, man, I hope I can actually see these before they're like dumped in a few days to the once or twice a day bin, let alone might be gone
Right.
by the time you even get through the first week. So that kills me. I do hate that. But yeah, this one worth watching. Definitely, a solid thriller if you want to check that out. Uh let's go with Widow's Bay, buddy, for number 2 here. Apple TV Plus, your fam, is
I'm
back at it
telling you,
again.
man, they're killing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. This one's a supernatural small town mystery series starring Matthew Reese and Stephen Root, amongst others. Man, I watched both episodes. I believe you only watched the
Yeah, I
first.
only watched the first one.
So to me, I feel like this has, if Jaws and The Mist was made into a dark comedy vibe. Did you catch that at all? I know the first episode's a little different from the second, so maybe I'm ahead of you here. But I think, again, it's like this kind of islandish off, New York, small town, possibly cursed, the fog coming off, being like, there's, history of cannibalism in the town and all these other weirdo things that happen when the fog rolls in. So it turns into something, where there's a pressure point now where they're trying to get more tourism. They're trying to overcome a bad legacy and trying to, as they said, it turn it into, you know, some kind of like destination getaway, kind of like a Cape Cod or Bar Harbor kind of a thing, Martha's Vineyard, etc. So I found this hilarious. Like the second episode, especially, I was literally laughing out loud by myself in my apartment. Like it's just so funny. They actually do the whole second episode is them. They have tourists coming in, so they test out the inn that is there, and they have this suite that they think is haunted. And the mayor has to stay overnight, who's played by Matthew Reese, to prove to these people that it's all superstition and whatever else. And then you see what happens. And so it's getting kookier as it goes along. So what did you think of the first episode, and are you in
Oh, I'm
on this one?
I'm definitely in from the first scene on. I'm in. I like Matthew Reese, and the
Yeah.
way he portrayed the male is just like a manic, like say he wants to make his town to like Martha Vineyard and just want to impress. And the townspeople are all quirky and they have their own
Yes.
ticks. And like you get introduced to the smoking secretary, and he's like, I got no time for gossip. And she's telling him stuff anyway, like he's got chlamydia or
Which we
syphilis.
love her from My Name is Earl.
Yeah, great stuff. So like I love the cast. I love Stephen Root in here. as a guy like really trying to like he's the trying to rein the mayor in and trying to like make him believe there is something going on in this town, and he's bringing out all the
Yeah, he's the
articles.
skeptic, he's the town crier, he's
Yeah,
the historian. Yeah.
but I love the setting. I love the look of the town. I also thought I had like, of course, I didn't get to the second episode, but it did remind me of how they're in Jaws. They're trying to get tourism and trying to keep people there as something could
Yeah,
possibly
and
be happen.
ignoring the signs,
Yeah,
ignoring everything. That's where I was kinda going with that
but
for
with
sure.
like the quirkiness of the cast of everyone, it kind of gave me like a Twins Peakish kind of one of those weird Wayward Pines, Twin Peaks X Files
Yeah.
kind of
I
show.
would probably say, yeah, that a little bit more towards the back because I hate just going to the Twin Peaks comparison because every time there's some kind of quirky, mystery show, it's like, oh, it's Twin Peaks. That show was so bizarre. Like
Yes,
it's just its own thing. I feel like because Lynch is his own thing. So saying things are Lynchian, I really have to believe that to get there. But I feel like this is the softer version. So your Wayward Pine thing, I could definitely see.
right. So, but I enjoyed the first episode, man, and like I said, it hasn't been hooked in. I just wanted to watch more, but we have another show we're going to talk about soon that's really got my attention at the moment. So, and plus, I think
Yeah.
Apple only released three. Is it three episodes of this one? Right,
So 2 to start, and then the third
weekly.
one is coming out on Wednesday.
Okay,
So yeah, and that'll be weekly.
yeah.
Yeah.
So another hopefully home run for Apple TV. Coming off the
It looks like
trailer
it.
for Ted Lasso, the new season of Ted Lasso. On top of it, so
I know. And
like
I believe they have another show coming out next week too. So they just keep cranking them out. They're starting to get that, budget spend. They're really killing it now. And
right,
especially you just finished Monarch and your Friends and Neighbors is still kicking, right?
yeah.
And you know, they have that uh God. I always Elizabeth Moss show
Yeah, with
that's
Kerry
still
Washington,
going.
yeah, still going on. Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
and it was funny not to, like, get sidetracked, but when Apple TV first came out, they had a handful of shows, and Ted Lasso was the anchor of Apple TV.
Yes, correct.
And I always said, like, they got quality shows, they just don't have a quantity of shows. But now
Correct. Yeah.
now at the rate they're turning them out, and they're all pretty good quality, so it's like they are playing catch up, and they're doing it in a good way. So,
Yeah. I know for people who like For All Mankind, I know they have a spin-off coming this month too for that. So if that's as successful as that one was too, you got more and more.
yeah.
It's just gonna keep piling on. So good on them. Make it worth that monthly spend, please, Apple. Uh the last one, as you already kind of tipped to, the number one here is Man on Fire, a show that you've watched that I am very interested in because I gotta tell you, when I first saw this, I'm not a big fan. I'm okay with the Denzel movie.
Right.
I wasn't like over the moon about it. That was a weird Denzel period for me where some people are like all in on, Man on Fire and what was the God, not the Equalizer, but there was a third one that was Deja Vu was the movie that
Okay.
was and At a Time. So like he had like a bunch of these all tied together where like for me, my Denzel is like, give me the, during that period, give me Inside Man, give me Training Day, give me American Gangster. But then he had kind of these action one man army kind of like type movies where it's Man on Fire, Out of Time, you know, and Deja Vu, where I was like, I'm less into that. But here's where I'm intrigued now. I did not know, and Netflix is brilliant, so I should have known. This is not just this is an IP grab, like, because this is a Denzel movie. This is like, there's 5 novels here. This is their answer to Reacher. And with a guy like Yahya Abdul Mateen II, that I absolutely love in most of the things, you've enjoyed him in Wonder Man earlier on in the year. Man, if this is successful, and if this is as good as you are saying, because you said you like this more than the other things we've already talked about, sell me, buddy, because to me, if this is successful, this could be in our lives for the next 5 years.
Right. I hope, based on what I've seen so far, I hope it is because I was a fan of Man on Fire, and when that came out. I really enjoyed that Denzel movie because one, it had Denzel's. I liked the movie, and Tony Scott was one of my favorite directors. Rest in peace. So,
Totally.
like, it all lined up for me. When this, when they announced this show, I was skeptical. I'll be honest with you. I'm like, how are they gonna like Denzel? Like, you're gonna recreate a Denzel role and blah blah blah. But man, I
Yeah.
mean, you talk about like you get into it right in the first scene of Man on Fire and where it goes because the Tony Scott movie was based mainly on the first book with a lot of liberties. This one, like you
Yes.
said, takes from the first book, but then the sequel, The Perfect Kill. So it's like they combine two stories into one.
Oh, they did. Okay.
Yeah. So what I liked about this, so is we got a younger Creasy. We got to see why he has PTSD, why he's messed up, what he has to
Right.
go through, and just like just his background, his military background, and just everything he's going through. And I hate trying to pronounce his name, but Mateen
Yeah,
just
yeah. Abdul
yeah,
Mateen. Yeah.
yeah. He absolutely just is destroying this role right now. The only thing
Mm.
lacking from him at the moment is it doesn't have that emotional connection like Denzel had in the first movie, like Creasy and Child. Uh,
Is that, if I'm remembering correctly, is that Dakota
it is
Fanning?
Dakota Fanning. So
Yeah. Okay.
it doesn't really have Mateen plays him like he has emotion, but we haven't seen it like fully come to the surface yet. He's more superficial, like, hey, this is a mission, I have to protect you. We
Yeah.
gotta get this stuff. So the first setup is he gets you see what happens to him and why he's kind of in exile almost. Bobby
Mhm.
Cannavale, who I love. Uh,
I was gonna bring that up
mm,
because you're not a fan.
yeah,
Yeah.
kind of brings it back into the fold, and this takes place in Brazil, which they really do highlight Brazil in this series. I mean, it is you
Okay.
get like authentic, gritty, grungy Brazil, and it is
Mm.
fantastic as a background piece to the show.
Okay.
And there's a uh, act of terror that kind of sets Mateen on his mission. So you get the connection with the young girl that hasn't fully flourished yet, but you also get like him like taking out a bunch of bad guys. So it is like Reacher kind of
Right.
action with smarter, I would say, espionage behind it because you get some involvement with the CIA. Scoot McNairy has a couple scenes in the first couple
Ooh.
episodes. So the
Yeah.
cast is good. It is every episode is like 45 minutes and it I mean it ticks by. It flies by. Like as soon as you get into it, it's over. I'm like, God damn it, let's go. So
Nice.
I
How
it,
many episodes you said?
I think it's
7.
episodes and I'm on
Mm.
episode 4 at the moment.
Mm.
And
Okay.
yeah, it's just that dark, gritty kind of action. It's a lot of good things coming together. So it really wasn't expecting it. Maybe that's why I'm so high on it because I really had the bar kind of set medium. But it's
Right.
really like cleared my expectations so far. So my
Excellent.
team's on a roll, man. Between like you said, between Wonder Man, who he killed that series too. Now he's going back to back with this series. It's like, okay, come on.
Yeah.
And you're right, Netflix can't continue this story based on how this ends, based on his other books,
Yeah.
like they can continue which I hope they do. Like Netflix needs their answer to like Reacher in a way.
Yeah. Especially, I think they're working on Extraction 3, but again, that's movie franchise stuff. You probably need a good actioner series around, which I can't I'm blanking. I don't think I remember
I can't remember.
something too much as of recently, especially.
Right, especially coming from Netflix. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I just feel like their successful series have been more crime drama, stuff than that. It's not like the action gritty kick ass lead
Yeah.
man that you
Yeah,
get.
it's either YA or it's, a murder mystery or, they have their lanes.
Yes.
It's like the very consumable, very bingeable models of things. And if anything, they'll go like, fantasy or some of these other ones. They don't really do this very often, or at least like maybe they haven't done it very well. That's why I was kind of like, a little bit of hesitancy on this, especially because I was like, wow, did the Denzel thing pop that much that this is gonna work,
Right.
But because I honestly didn't know there was 5 novels, and not only that, did you watch the Scott Glenn version of this?
I did not.
So apparently, what it was, 87? I guess there was a version of this where he's not named John Kreese, but like they changed the name. It's Scott Glenn playing the character, but it's the exact same plot. They tried this now with 2 movies and now a series. So I was kind of like,
Huh.
wow, they really like these. So, but that is reminiscent of Tom Cruise trying to do Reacher, not really getting that to work. And then now having the Reacher TV series and being huge.
Right. And I will say, like, when I was watching this too, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to take a look up at the director. It's directed by Stephen Capel Jr., who
Okay.
his work isn't
Don't know the name.
stellar, but he's done like Creed 2, Rapture. He did The Land. He did a Transformers movie. So like nothing like pops off to you. Creed
Sure.
2 is different. But the first episode, it had an Antoine Fuqua kind of feel to it, which
Okay.
is right in my lane. So
Yeah, which is the Denzel comp,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So it kind of carries on with that as well. And I had to look him up because I was like, did Fuqua direct this? Because I didn't hear it. And then I saw that Cable Jr. directed it. So
Yeah, but is he this is where he's not the creator though,
no,
and
he is
that's where
not.
I
He
wanted
is
to
not
look.
the creator. It
So Kyle Kylan is, and he wrote for the Halo TV series, so plus or minus. I've heard decent
I
things, even
did.
though that got kind of yanked pretty quick. He was the writer on Fear Street, the first one. So that to me is a plus. So, not a guy without some laurels to him as well. So I think that helps. So to me, I'm in, man. So that's good. I'm glad you really like it because this is a Shane show. So if it doesn't pass you, then it's not coming to me.
Right.
So even though we do have our crossover in that type of lane, but I'm interested in this one, especially I'm on vacation, baby. I am off from the day job this week. Still have my Netflix stuff going, and still obviously what we're doing here. But I have more time on my hands this week, so I'm interested in something that I can just kind of chill and ingest. And this might be the one. Besides catching up on my shows, still got some stuff I'm hanging around, but Man on Fire is definitely on the list. Speaking of lists and what's coming up, of course, it's Mother's Day. So, of course, they have the biggest Mother's Day movie you could possibly think of, Mortal Kombat 2, coming out this week. High on the charts. Though, again, I think, obviously it's going to be another big weekend for Devil Wears Prada for that, if that's part of it. And I'm going to say it, man. I think the Sheep Detectives is going to be, it has #1 possibilities written all over it because this is a movie for an adult crowd if I ever saw it. So this is going to be a test. This, like, you're seeing the success of Devil Wears Prada 2 and Michael and some of these other ones that are aimed at an older crowd, and they showed up.
Yep.
So is this going to be enough to just be like Hugh Jackman and a bunch of talking animals? Is this enough? But I'm telling you, it's like catnip, especially to like senior crowd. I'm telling you, it has the potential. I'm not saying it's going to do Knives Out 1 numbers because that might be too nuts. However, it might do better than people think.
Okay.
So, especially when its only competition is stuff that's already come out in Mortal Kombat. It's a decent lane to be in.
It is.
So, I think that might work. But so I assume you are going to see Mortal Kombat 2 this week. And, is this a pants off situation? Oh, I forgot to mention The Boys, so we're still enjoying and had probably their best episode in a long time this past week.
Yeah, talking about pants off right there.
Well, for Carl Urban,
yeah.
him getting a double dose right now.
Right. So it could be. It has a potential to be a pants off movie. We'll see.
Yeah. Did you like the last one? And the last one, it's been a minute, right? Because it came out during COVID.
It did. It was okay. Like, there's a couple believe it or not, there's like a big plot point. I was like, really? Where it's the one where they added the character who wasn't in the game. So it's like you're introducing a new character who's not involved in any of the games. That's the biggest gripe.
Right.
They gave him the best backstory and the most development. And I don't even know if he's in the second one. So, I mean,
of course.
Yeah. So we'll see.
It honestly feels like a reboot.
Right.
Again,
it does.
After the last one was kind of a reboot from the ones before. Like, was Annihilation the last one before that?
It was, yeah.
Yeah. So this franchise has been I don't want to say cursed. It's just it just hasn't found its footing where it's like, is this going to be like the Power Rangers? You
Oh
know,
god.
where it's like they kind of compared that as far as because the tracking on the money for this is all over the place
Right.
of the interest out there. But again, not a whole lot going on just yet. So it might be in a good weekend to at least maximize whatever it's going to do.
Right.
But so I assume that is where we're gonna head for next week. We'll see, man. You never know where Sheep Detectives is gonna take us. I'm not taking it off the table. But regardless, I would say out there, subscribe to us wherever you get podcasts, or they're a YouTube person to see our shining faces on video for that. Or if you're an audio person, of course, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get podcasts, we are everywhere in that form as well. So be sure to get the word out, man. The numbers have been delightful. We're in a good place. I enjoy what we're doing here. And you're great as always, Shane. So thank you,
Thank you.
sir, for that. And be sure to join us next week for more Mortal Kombat and recent activity.